The governor issues an executive order to prepare Oklahoma for possible Indo-Pacific conflict. An Oklahoma group reacts to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision preserving access to an abortion pill. And a noodling festival in Pauls Valley this weekend. We'll have details on the KGOU AM News Brief for Friday, June 14th. I'm Nick Daniels. Governor Kevin Stitt is preparing the state for possible conflict between the United States, its Indo-Pacific allies, and the People's Republic of China. As State Capitol reporter Lionel Ramos reports, the governor's latest executive order directs the agency managing state assets to take preemptive and protective action against potential cyber attacks coming from China.
Stitt's executive order mandates the Office of Enterprise and Management Services, or OMES, to annually audit the state for vulnerabilities to attacks from the Chinese Communist Party, and to implement solutions to combat such attacks preemptively. Stitt writes, those attacks could be cybersecurity breaches of state agency networks and systems, threats to state or national economic security and public health, or the disabling of electric and water infrastructure. In the justification for the executive action, Stitt points to federal cybersecurity and intelligence officials' claims that China is at the top of a list of aggressive, quote, foreign adversaries engaging in the cyber espionage of Americans. An assessment of the state's vulnerabilities is to be delivered to the governor and legislative leadership within 90 days of Thursday's order, to be followed by the state's divestment from at-risk assets. I'm Lionel Ramos.
The U.S. Supreme Court dismissed a case in a unanimous ruling Thursday that would have restricted access to the abortion-inducing drug mifepristone. State Impact's Jillian Taylor has more on the response from a local reproductive rights group.
The court ruled the case's plaintiffs lack the right to sue the FDA based on its approval of the drug and decisions to ease access to it. Tamaya Cox-Toure, a co-chair for the Oklahoma Call for Reproductive Justice, says she's happy the drug is still available to everyone. But she says future cases could be made against the drug. Cox-Toure also says she's concerned by how Oklahoma considered policies this session that would have restricted abortion-inducing drugs.
Even with our very extreme ban, legislators and policymakers are still trying to find ways to make it more difficult for people to make decisions about when to become pregnant.
Medication abortions accounted for over 60% of all abortions in the U.S. in 2023. For State Impact, I'm Jillian Taylor.
Well, switching gears now. Noodling. That's where people catch catfish using their hands as both the bait and the hook. It's only legal in 17 states, including Oklahoma. As OPMX's Grayson Wheeler reports, that's why people from all over gather in the south-central part of the state to celebrate the sport every year.
This weekend, Pauls Valley will welcome noodlers and their prize catfish for the 24th Okie Noodling Festival. Competitors can catch their quarry anywhere in the state, but they'll have to haul them to the tournament alive for weighing. Jennifer Samford is with Pauls Valley Parks and Rec and has been involved in the tournament for more than a decade. She says they have more than 40 noodlers registered this year, and they'll come from other states and countries.
I've met a couple that drove all the way from California because they wanted to be here and see it, and then all around the world. We have a noodler registered from Japan, and they're bringing a film crew.
The excitement isn't just for competitive noodlers. There will be live music and food trucks tonight, and on Saturday, people can watch the catfish weigh-ins and even practice noodling themselves in a demo tank. I'm Grayson Wheeler.
Well, speaking of Japan, a film set and shot in Oklahoma is making its Japanese theatrical debut this weekend. OPMX's Matthew Variappa has details.
The film Ike Boys is inspired by the childhood of writer-director Eric McKeever, who grew up in Oklahoma in the late 1990s watching anime and monster movies. Two high school teens, Sean and Vic, welcome Japanese study abroad student Miki to Oklahoma. But when they spend a night watching a bootleg anime, they're magically transformed into its superpowered characters. The film features some familiar Oklahoma sights and people, like former TV meteorologist Gary England. But instead of tornadoes, expect a chance for monster battles, karate fights, and even actor Billy Zane. And if you don't think you can make it to Japan this weekend, you can catch Ike Boys on streaming now. I'm Matthew Variappa.
You'll find more news throughout the day at our website, kgou.org, and on the KGOU PM News Brief podcast.
I'm Rachel Martin. You probably know how interview podcasts with famous people usually go. There's a host, a guest, and a light Q&A. But on Wildcard, we have ripped up the typical script. It's a new podcast from NPR where I invite actors, artists, and comedians to play a game using a special deck of cards to talk about some of life's biggest questions. Listen to Wildcard wherever you get your podcasts, only from NPR.